This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program, broadcasting on commercial radio stations from coast to coast on Sirius XM all across the North American continent, on Pacifica stations across America, Europe, and Africa, on American Forces Radio, on every U.S. military base in the world, on your electronic device via TuneIn, Progressive Voices, Thom Hartmann app, and simulcast as television by Free Speech TV on Dish Network, DirecTV, and cable systems nationwide. So happy to have you with us. And on the line with us, Congressman Joe Crowley, brilliantly representing the 14th District of New York, and chair, most importantly, of the House Democratic Caucus, although I'm guessing your constituents in New York would say secondarily importantly. Congressman Crowley, welcome back to the program. It's been a while.
Thanks, Tom. It's great to be back with you. It has been a while, but always glad to be back with you.
Yeah, back at you. By the way, for people who want to learn more about you and the work you're doing, Crowley, crowley.house.gov is your website, and you can tweet Congressman Crowley at Rep. Joe Crowley or at House Democrats. And,
that's a PSA.
Say that again?
That's a PSA.
PSA, okay. There you go. And any of our, I understand, Congressman, you can stay with us for the half hour.
Yeah, I think they told me 20 minutes, but a half hour is fine by me as long as they don't call votes on me.
Okay. Well, we can. Yeah, that's
sure.
Great.
You need, yeah.
We will insert a small break in there, but it'll be 20 minutes from now, 25 minutes.
Great.
When we hit the break at the bottom of the hour, the hard break at the bottom of the hour. There is a soft break in the middle. But if anybody has a specific question for the guy who is the chair of the House Democratic Caucus, we can put you on.
Yep.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
First of all, feel free to pontificate on whatever's at the top of your mind right now, if there's something that you think is really important that our listeners need to know about. But also, I'm curious what you see as the direction of the Democratic Party. We had some callers in the last hour talking about, how should the Democratic Party position itself and how should it take on Trump? And I'm just wondering what the contemporary thinking is on all this.
Well, I think the contemporary thinking is that we just can't be the party against Trump. That's clear. Although he's doing a pretty good job himself of mucking things up, as we say. I think we have to stand for something, and I think Democrats always have, quite frankly. I think we didn't do a good enough job of communicating who we are, what we stand for in the last election for a myriad of reasons. And I think Trump was able to capitalize that in his marketing way as a TV personality and, kind of connect in some way. The reality is that his connecting during the election has no relevance to how he's governing. And he's not delivering at all for the people that he said he was fighting for. It's interesting to see what happened yesterday in terms of the ban on transgender. When he had said during the campaign and the tweets that had gone out that, I'll stand for the LGBT community, forgetting that T stands for transgender, obviously, and, to take the hateful steps he took yesterday to ban these individuals from serving in our nation's military is just another indication of he says one thing to get elected and then does something completely different once elected. Now, some folks would say that's the way politicians act, but there are just certain things you just don't do, and these are people's real lives that we're talking about. So that's an example of it. But I do think that Democrats have stood for the working man, for unions, for those who are struggling to make ends meet, and for all of us to succeed and do better in America, and not just the wealthiest, 1%.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm really looking forward as time goes on, as this whole better deal gets rolled out, to seeing the details of it.
Yep.
Kayam has a question for you. He's calling, or she, I'm not sure, calling from Seattle, Washington. Kayam, you're on the air with Congressman Joe Crowley.
Hi.
Hi. Gee.
My name is Kion, and, I'm only 10. And I'm one of the most political 10-year-olds that people say they've ever met, but I think that transgender people are the only difference they have from other people is the difference that people have from each other. You either think of yourself as a man or you think of yourself as a woman, and the way that you think about yourself is the way that you are. So I'm just wondering, what are you going to do to stop this horrible thing? I don't know what to call it, from continuing, because transgender people, like I said, they're people.
Yeah. Well,
thank you,
What
Kyle.
district do you live in? Who's your congressperson?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
My senator is Reuben Carlisle.
Wow. Well, I had to tell you something. You're 15 years away from being eligible to run for Congress, but someday I hope you run for Congress, because we need young people like you with that kind of acumen and caring about their fellow man, and that includes man and woman, and that includes transgender, and that's why I think, from the mouths of babes, as the adage goes, babe, when it comes to your political acumen, and I couldn't agree more with you, and I think you hit the nail on the head. This is about human beings. This is about individuals who have taken an oath to protect their country from all enemies, foreign and domestic, that they will obey the military code of honor, that they will take that hill if commanded to do so by their superior officer. It's the test that needs to be met as to whether or not you have the ability to serve in our military, whether you have the physical and mental capability of doing that. And those are rigorous standards that are set up by the military to do that, and they ought to be. But regardless of whether you're straight or gay or you're a transgender person, you ought to be able to contribute to the protection of this great nation. And what the president did yesterday, in my opinion, was unforgivable. It's hateful. It was done to distract from, I think, the tension that is taking place in the White House today on multiple levels. It was to distract from the Russia investigation. It was to distract from their inability to get anything accomplished here in Washington, D.C. So, we need more people like you thinking that way, and I think you're a great, great indicator of the youth of America. They see right through this president, this individual. They know what he's made of, and 9 times out of 10, they reject him. So I appreciate that call. It was wonderful.
And if Trump did this to get, and there are some news reports that he did this just to get some votes out of the House for his for funding for his wall in Mexico, that makes it even doubly heinous.
Cynical and heinous, and even more unforgivable.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan in Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming, listening on Sirius XM. You are on the air with Congressman Joe Crowley, the chairman of the House Democratic Caucus.
Hello, Congressman. Hey, Tom. Good to talk to you guys. Wondering what the Democratic Party is thinking about as far as getting rid of the Electoral College and political district gerrymandering. Considering how the vote went last time, it was so close, and just a change of about 10,000 votes. Wisconsin, Michigan would have taken it the other way.
And Florida too.
And but I'll take my answer off the air. Just want to hear what your opinion is on those two issues. Thanks.
I appreciate that. And interestingly enough, my wife Casey, her family comes from Montana, right next door. They originally homesteaded in Wyoming back in the late 1800s. So I've been out there, a great part of the country, and really a boy from Queens takes his way out to the West, and I love it.
That's great.
And what I would say is that I do think that there are more and more people looking at whether or not the structure of the Electoral College is arcane or not, whether or not it's truly representative of representative democracy. I think you live by the sword, die by the sword to some degree as well, although it looks like Democrats have been dying by the sword more often than not when it comes to this. We look at the election of 2000. Certainly we look at the election of 2016 and the pain that was caused by that. This really is has been generally an issue of states' rights and the relegation in terms of gerrymandering or redistricting. The likelihood that will change is pretty nil, but I do think that there may be a more uniform way in which it could be we could control those states to conform to one that is more representative of interests of that district that go beyond politics, that really reflect the cities or the towns and that populace. I think what has happened, especially prior to the last reapportionment, is that my Republican colleagues in their party invested a tremendous amount of money in winning local state legislative seats, and that had an impact on reapportionment and gerrymandering, quite frankly, as Dan put it, that put us at a disadvantage. We do see the Supreme Court has taken some positive steps, certainly in Carolina and in Texas and Florida, and that is having an impact in terms of our ability to win some of those seats that were gerrymandered against us. So I think the book is still out on that, and it's something we need to continue to work on.
Good thing. Congressman Crowley, hang on just a second. We've got to take a real quick break here. We're talking with Congressman Joe Crowley of New York.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
He is the chairman of the House Democratic Caucus. You can tweet him at Rep. Joe Crowley, Crowley. His website, crowley.house.gov.